Discipline has never once come from feeling ready. Not a single time in your entire life. Every moment you waited for motivation to show up, for the resistance to fade, for some inner green light to finally switch on, you were obeying a lie your brain told you so convincingly that you mistook it for wisdom. Here's what actually happens. There's a specific neurological mechanism that makes you believe readiness is a prerequisite for action, and that mechanism exists not to help you, but to protect you from effort. Once you see how it works, you can't unsee it. And the moment you can't unsee it, discipline stops being something you have to force and starts becoming something that runs on its own. If this is your first time here, this is what neural Ascent does. We show you the actual machinery behind your behavior, so you stop fighting yourself and start working with the system you already have. If that's useful to you, subscribe and stay. Here's what you've been told about discipline, and here's why it's kept you stuck. The common story goes like this. Discipline is a character trait. Some people have it. Some people don't. The ones who have it wake up early, push through discomfort, and grind without complaint. The ones who don't are lazy, weak, or broken in some fundamental way. And so the solution everyone offers is the same. Try harder. Push through. Build more willpower. White-knuckle your way through the resistance until you become the kind of person who doesn't feel resistance anymore. That entire framework is structurally wrong. It's not just incomplete. It's pointing in the opposite direction of how your brain actually produces consistent behavior. Willpower is not a muscle you strengthen through repetition. It's a resource that depletes. And the people you admire for their discipline aren't using more of it than you. They're using almost none. The difference between you and them isn't strength. It's architecture. The most disciplined people you know have built a system where the behavior happens before the decision gets made. They haven't beaten resistance. They've made resistance irrelevant. And to understand how, you need to understand one specific thing about your brain that changes everything. Think about driving to a place you've been 100 times. You don't sit in the car debating whether to turn left or right. You don't weigh the pros and cons of each intersection. Your hands move. The route unfolds. You arrive, sometimes without remembering a single turn. That's not laziness. That's your basal ganglia doing exactly what it evolved to do. Taking a sequence of actions that used to require conscious thought and compressing them into a single automatic pattern. A chunk. One signal fires, and the whole sequence plays out without your prefrontal cortex needing to supervise. Now think about the thing you've been trying to be disciplined about. Working out, writing, studying, eating differently. Every single time you approach it, you're standing at a fork, and your brain treats it as a fresh decision. Should I do this right now? Do I feel like it? Is this the right time? Am I in the right state? That deliberation is the problem. Not because you're weak for deliberating, but because deliberation is metabolically expensive. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain handling that decision, burns glucose at a disproportionate rate. It fatigues, and when it fatigues, it defaults to whatever requires the least immediate effort, which is always not doing the thing. This is the mechanism. Your brain has two systems for producing behavior. One is the goal-directed system, which lives in your prefrontal cortex and handles new, uncertain, or effortful decisions. The other is the habitual system, housed primarily in your basal ganglia, which handles automated sequences that no longer need deliberation. The goal-directed system is powerful, but slow and expensive. The habitual system is fast, cheap, and nearly effortless. Discipline, real discipline, the kind that lasts months and years and actually changes your life, is what happens when a behavior migrates from the first system to the second. Here's where the readiness trap comes in. Your brain doesn't just passively wait for you to feel ready. It actively manufactures the feeling of not being ready as a protective mechanism. This is the anterior insula working alongside your amygdala to generate what neuroscientists call anticipatory affect, a felt sense of what an action will cost before you've taken it. When you think about sitting down to work, your brain runs a rapid simulation of the effort involved and produces a feeling that says not yet. That feeling isn't information about your actual capacity. It's a forecast. And like most forecasts, it's biased toward overestimating threat and underestimating your ability to handle discomfort. The critical insight is this: the feeling of not being ready is not a signal to wait. It's the signal that you're still running the behavior through the wrong system. You're still deliberating. You're still treating the action as a choice that needs to be evaluated in the moment. And as long as you keep doing that, your brain will keep generating reasons not to start. Not because you lack discipline, because you're asking the expensive system to do the cheap system's job every single day, over and over. Epictetus said something 20 centuries ago that neuroscience only recently confirmed. He said we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them. That anticipatory affect, that feeling of I'm not ready, isn't the event. It's the judgment. It's your brain's editorial about what hasn't happened yet. And you've been letting that editorial run your life. Not because you're foolish, because no one ever showed you the difference between a feeling that reports reality and a feeling that predicts it. They are not the same thing. They use different circuits, and only one of them deserves your obedience. So if you've spent years believing you lack discipline, here's what was actually happening. You weren't undisciplined. You were over-deciding. Every morning, every evening, every moment you approach the behavior, you open the deliberation window. And the longer that window stays open, the more likely you are to walk away. Research on decision fatigue, originally published by Baumeister and later refined by studies at the University of Minnesota, shows that the quality of your decisions degrades predictably across a day. By evening, the same person who made sharp choices at 8 in the morning is now incapable of resisting the path of least resistance. Not because they got weaker, because the system that handles deliberation got spent. Now look at your life through this lens. You'll see two traps, and you're probably in one of them right now. The first trap is perpetual optimization. You spend more time designing the system than using it. You research the best morning routine, the optimal workout split, the ideal journaling framework. You refine the plan, adjust the plan, restart the plan. And every time you restart, it feels like progress because you're engaging with the topic. But engagement isn't execution. Planning is still deliberation. And every hour you spend optimizing is another hour the behavior stays in the expensive system, burning through the very resources you'd need to actually do the thing. The second trap is emotional gatekeeping. You've made your internal state the prerequisite for action. You'll write when you feel inspired. You'll work out when you feel energized. You'll study when you feel focused. It sounds reasonable. It even sounds healthy. But what it actually does is hand the keys to your behavior over to a system that was never designed to drive. Your emotional state fluctuates based on sleep, blood sugar, social interactions, weather, hormones, and 100 other variables you don't control. Making action contingent on emotional readiness means your behavior becomes as unstable as your mood. And then you blame yourself for being inconsistent, when the truth is you built an inconsistent system and ran it perfectly. The path between these traps is narrow but real. It doesn't require you to feel nothing. It doesn't require you to override your emotions through sheer force. It requires you to stop treating the feeling of readiness as a gate you have to pass through and start treating it as scenery you pass by. That's the shift. Scenery, not a gate. You don't wait for the weather to be perfect before you drive to work. You notice it. Maybe you adjust your speed, but you go. The feeling of not being ready works the same way. It's there. You can notice it. You don't have to obey it. And here's what happens when you stop obeying it. This is the part that matters most. When you take action before the feeling of readiness arrives, you create what's called a prediction error in your brain's dopaminergic system. Your brain predicted discomfort. You acted anyway. The discomfort was less than predicted. Your brain updates. It doesn't update through logic. It updates through experience. Every single time you act before you feel ready and the outcome isn't catastrophic, your brain recalibrates. The anticipatory resistance gets a little quieter. The forecast gets a little less dramatic. And gradually action starts to require less and less deliberation. It migrates. It moves from the prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia. It becomes automatic, not because you forced it, because you trained it. This is discipline, becoming a system instead of a feeling. This is what the people you admire actually did. They didn't conquer resistance. They made it obsolete. So here's what you do tonight, not tomorrow morning. Not next week when conditions improve. Tonight. Pick one behavior. Just one. The one that matters most and that you've been running through the deliberation window over and over. You're going to remove the window entirely. You're going to attach that behavior to a specific existing cue that already happens in your day without any effort. Maybe it's the moment you set your phone on the charger at night. Maybe it's the moment you pour your first glass of water in the morning. Maybe it's the instant you sit down at your desk. The cue has to be something you already do without thinking, and the behavior you attach to it has to be compressed to its smallest possible form. Not the full workout, the shoes going on. Not the whole chapter. The notebook opening, not the complete meditation. One breath with your eyes closed. That's it. What you're doing is giving your basal ganglia something small enough to chunk. You're shrinking the behavior below the threshold where your brain feels the need to deliberate. And you're linking it to a cue that's already automated so the sequence inherits the automation. The neuroscience term is implementation intention, but the mechanism is simpler than the name. You're preloading the decision so it doesn't have to be made in the moment. You already decided. Tonight, right now, the decision is done. All that's left is the motion. Do it poorly. Do it half asleep. Do it while every cell in your body says you're not ready. That feeling is not information. It's weather. You drive through weather. And here's what you'll find, probably within 2 weeks if you don't break the chain. The resistance fades, not because you got tougher, because your brain stopped flagging the behavior as uncertain. It moved it from the system that questions to the system that executes. You didn't build discipline, you built a circuit. And circuits don't need motivation, they just fire. This was never about becoming a harder person. It was never about grinding through pain until you stopped feeling it. That story sold a lot of books and ruined a lot of people. The truth is quieter than that and far more powerful. You don't lack discipline. You've been solving the wrong problem. You've been trying to win a fight with resistance when resistance was never the enemy. The enemy was the decision point. The moment of deliberation, the open window where your brain manufactures 100 reasons to wait. Close the window and there's nothing to fight. Discipline doesn't feel like anything when it's working. It feels like Tuesday. It feels like the thing just happened and you barely noticed. That's not the absence of effort. That's the presence of architecture. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not missing some trait that others were born with. You've just been running capable hardware on the wrong operating instructions. Now you have the right ones. The feeling of readiness was never coming. It was never supposed to come. Action was always meant to go first. And the person who moves before they feel ready isn't reckless. They're the only one who ever arrives.